Okay, good morning, everyone. Before I formally convene the meeting, please settle in our chairs, join me in taking a breath, and look around. As I see you, I'm reminded of what parishioner Elizabeth Bratz preached last December. She reminded us, this is our church. And by God, it is. We're still Trinity. Here's your vestry. Every Sunday, we celebrate a beautiful liturgy. We enjoy inspiring music. Our talented staff and dedicated volunteers still do our ministries. Our catechesis class, where participants are oriented towards the norms and traditions and values of the Episcopal Church. Our catechesis class has never been larger. And we have participants from throughout the diocese and beyond. Our children are still learning godly play. We express uncommon warmth, intellectual curiosity, holy compassion, deep beauty, and radical hospitality as an open and welcoming congregation. We're still doing Trinity things, just like we've always done for a very long time, and will continue to do so. Therefore, I call to order the 174th annual meeting of the Congregation of Trinity Episcopal Cathedral. Canon Vicar Shanna, would you please bless us with a prayer?
The Lord be with you. Let us pray. Almighty and ever-living God, source of all wisdom and understanding, be present with those who take counsel for the renewal and mission of your church. Teach us in all things to seek first your honor and glory. Guide us to perceive what is right and grant us both the courage to pursue it and the grace to accomplish it through Jesus Christ our Lord.
Thank you, Shanna. If you picked up an agenda at the table back there by the door, you can see there's a list of really routine business items that we conduct at every annual meeting, with the exception of a dean's report, obviously, because that position is currently vacant. And I'll address the clergy transition in my senior warden remarks. You may also notice the absence of a printed annual report. We had to tighten our purse strings this year in order to balance our budget, so we eliminated the printing cost from our expenses. If you receive the weekly Trinity e-newsletter, you'll see that there's a link to the report there, and you can use those QR code handouts to find it if you have a smartphone. Okay, let's proceed. First thing is I invite a motion to accept without reading the minutes of last year's annual meeting. Second? All those in favor? Anybody opposed? Good choice. I want to call for Susan Lindauer to give a report on this year's nominating committee. She was our chair of the nom committee this year, and I've told her once, and I've told everyone I can say it was a master class in leadership. So, Susan.
Way to set me up, Greg. Okay, so it was a master class because I had fabulous members in the nominating committee, and I want all of you to be thinking of who you're going to nominate in a few minutes. So big thanks to the nominating committee members, which include the 3 outgoing vestry members, Faith Kuraming, Lauren Luz, and Jeff Cresswell. Amy Wild Taylor, who is the incoming chair, joined us, and it was great to have her kind of learn what we need to be doing for this process. We also had the 5 nominated congregation members that were elected during last year's annual meeting. They were Mary Shibley, Gina Skinner, Carl Moore, Deb Federici, Dawn Stevenson, and Pam Erickson, as well as Dean Nathan and the senior and junior wardens. So I want to recognize these outstanding members. If they are here, please stand. This was a fantastic group to work with. Yes, we can acknowledge them. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Fantastic group to work with, as you can imagine. Really appreciate their commitment and valuable insights to make this an effective and really successful process. The committee spent significant time developing the discernment framework tools, which I believe we are set to use for this year's nominating committee. They were considering the qualifications and other considerations that the committee was evaluating for both vestry members and the convention delegates and alternates. And if you are wanting information on the roles and expectation for vestry members, because sometimes it's not a lot of clarity on what these people do and what their expectations are, and the diocesan delegates and alternates, we have a very solid set of documents now. So, and I want to thank Mary, right there, Mary Shibley, for providing all the detailed work that she did on the diocesan delegate information. It's actually pretty complicated. And I also want to note that the committee and Dean Nathan were very interested in exploring how to cultivate leadership broadly for Trinity. And we tried to do that this year via the Trinity website, thanks to Arwen. We actually now have a kind of leadership page on the website. We did that after the Sunday, after 10 a.m. service Sundays. Yeah, hopefully you saw us talk about nominations for vestry and diocesan delegates. And we also did it as Sunday Commons, which hopefully you saw our beautiful flower bookmarks. We also did it at the commission leadership meeting. So I'm hoping that we'll do that again this year. Lauren Luz and I will continue to identify leadership opportunities going forward. But I would really encourage all of you to please identify and promote new leaders here at Trinity. We really need new leadership. And as a starting place, please nominate, like I said, yourself or a friend for this year's nominating committee. So for this year's slate, very pleased to tell you that the nominating committee had a robust discussion of 6 available candidates. Committee members discussed their strengths and qualities with consideration of the skills and attributes of the outgoing vestry members. The nominating committee is pleased to present the following nominees for 2025 vestry slate, which are Dave Ferguson, Jim Peterson, and Tony DeVito. Is Tony DeVito with us today? Okay. Okay. So do you want to do the motion?
May I have a motion to approve the slate of nominees for vestry? All in motion? Second, all in favor? Thank you very much.
And yay, thank you, thank you. And I will say that you didn't quite realize you were going to be coming into a vestry where you're going to be doing right away a interim dean search and then a full dean search. So thank you and bless you. Also very pleased to have the interest of 3 nominations for the diocesan delegates. The committee discerned and discussed 3 candidates and are pleased to present the proposed slate of diocesan delegates, which are Annie Stewart. I saw you, Annie. Yes, please stand. Barb Milliken is actually doing God's work in Ashland. And Jan Anderson. Jan, are you here? Great. Thank you. Okay, do you want to take the motion?
May I have a motion to accept the slate of nominees for diocesan convention representatives? All those in favor?
That concludes my report, except for the handing of the folder to Amy.
Thank you very much, Susan. I also want to thank outgoing diocesan representatives Beth Ferguson, Alicia Johnson, and Stephanie Montgomery for their service. And also thank Alicia Johnson for her service on vestry, a role she had to vacate to make time for a seminary as she pursues ordination as a priest. God be with you, Alicia. So Susan, thank you for your service this past year. And now we come to that point in the meeting where we take 5 nominations from the floor to join the nominating committee. And I want to emphasize, you're not nominating people for vestry. You're nominating people who will help discern with the ex officio participants who our next slate of leaders should be on vestry and on the convention representation. I'm going to ask Amy, this year's nominating committee chair, to be our scribe. And so the way this works, and if you're in the back, I tend to go kind of blind when I'm in front of all these people. So raise your hand real big or shout if I'm not catching, you're not catching my attention. But now would be appropriate for any of you up to 5 to nominate yourself or nominate someone you've conferred with who you know is willing to serve. Yes. Tony Incamp. Thank you. And need 4 more.
There's one in the back.
One in the back? Oh, you're nominating yourself? And Rose, what's your last name? Rose Foster. Okay.
I'm sorry, louder.
Proctor. Thank you. 2 down, 3 to go. I can wait. Can you? Yes. Ken Powell. Excellent. Thank you. 2 more. This is almost always the most awkward part of this meeting, isn't it?
I'm sorry, your name?
Paul.
Oh my gosh, will you spell that real loud?
Yeah, it's PASUUESI.
Nice to meet you.
Yes.
And I know I'm kind of new, but I would like to serve on this committee, and I'm Kelly, K-E-L-L-Y. B-O-Y-L-E.
B-O-Y?
E in the David.
So it looks like we have 5 nominees. Thank you very much for your, oh, yes. Lee.
This is really interesting because some of us were here 30 years ago when there were fights on the floor. It was a real tough fight.
What? Was that a motion, Lee? Okay. All right, I would like a motion for the clerk to instruct the clerk to cast on unanimous assent for this slate of nominating committee members. Second, all in favor? Okay, well done. And now we're going to hear from our treasurer, Bill Bennett, to present the treasurer's report.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. Thank you for your attention. This is an obligatory part of the meeting. The vestry has to present to you the
Go back here.
Once you hold it, stand, hold it. There you go. Eat it.
the vestry must present the data of how every one of your pennies has been used in the last year. And you have to approve it and for us to move along the meeting. Your Treasury Committee has worked very hard. In fact, they were overworked. I'd have them stand, but they're exhausted from a marathon meeting we had last Tuesday. Our main job is to carefully audit what the administrative staff prepares for us. And the staff is led by Paul Fleeger. And I'd ask Paul to stand because he's younger and is able to stand. And if someone needs to be recognized, it's Paul. Thank you. Thank you. And as I tried to explain last year, we have to bridge 3 different years in our work. The data you received in the mailing and what we're about to look at is from the fiscal year ending June 30th last year. So it sounds boring, but it has to be carefully looked at by us and then eventually by external auditors and validated. And it is. And so these are rock solid numbers. The data is not equivocal. There's nothing to worry about. It's wonderful. And it's sort of like, as we finished, behold, glad tidings. And let's, the first slide represents the monies that we received. The colors don't come very clear. But the total amount of money received, as you see, was over $2.5 million. Most of it was from plate and pledge. Plate income dropped dramatically during COVID, is slowly coming back, is still only 3/4 of what it was 5 years ago. So most of that is actually pledge income. Event income is listed as $100,000. 2/3 of that or more is from the parking lot. We didn't have any parking lot income years ago. It's a brand new revenue source. We don't charge you when you're here for weddings, funerals, your friends and whatnot. And of course, you're a pledging member, you have a sticker, so you park for free. It's mainly the Timbers crowd, Thorns crowd, that are gouging. Yeah. The endowment investment money income is significant. Your committee is asked to take the maximum amount we're allowed to take out on an annual basis, 5%. Many would like to take out less, let the endowments grow even greater, but we need that endowment money to cover other expenses. In fact, if you look at the pie chart, the plate and pledge money would barely cover personnel costs and DPA. But we'll come to that in the next slide. So there we go. So the different categories and expenses have been named to blunt things a little bit. As you look around, we start at the top. Uncommon warmth. Basically, what we're talking about is cathedral life, pastoral care. We lost one of our ministers. Now we've lost another. How is our pastoral care doing? Well, that's the amount of money. This is strictly related to I pushed it. Now it's red. Now it's green. It was green before. Okay. Oh my God. This obviously is a Wi-Fi gadget that doesn't like me. It is green. How about that? No?
Didn't we battery?
It mutes when you touch this down here.
Okay. Well, why is it green?
Are we good? Nope.
Why is it green?
Because it's not. So we take it. Oh, no, I think it needs batteries.
Starting at the top. This is how we apportion the monies. Some of the things like are clearly labeled. Music, art, worship is deep beauty. Holy compassion is outreach and pastoral care. Intellectual curiosity. It's interesting that we have monies coming in from the endowment that are spread among commissions, and some of that money goes for general purposes. About half of the endowment monies go for general purposes, and the other half go spread over the commissions. It's a little bit complicated. Money moves back and forth and all around, but this is how we eventually apportion it at the end of the year, and we spread some of the personnel costs among the different groupings. But basically, our pledge money pays for our personnel costs. If there's extra money from plate, pledge, parking, and pledge, parking, and investments, then we have money to feed into our programs. As we have a reduction in our staff, fewer clergy, that saves us a lot of money. We finish the year on budget, but that's not the way we want to finish. We want to finish with our full complement of clergy. So it's complicated. as we move forward. So this is how the money was spent in the year ending June 30th, 2024. The diocese, and most of these things are fairly static. They don't change a lot. Our DPA is related to how well we're doing. And so the fraction of the DPA is going to stay the same. This is the money we give to the diocese, and they send some of it even higher into the national level. But we have to pay these hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to be part of the Diocese of Oregon. The Buildings and Grounds Committee has its own endowments. Not enough. It needs more money. It has to take some money from us. If we have enough money from our annual giving campaign, we're allowed to feed them more money to catch up. Obviously, they can't keep catching up. And so there's deferred maintenance, things that are put off. And we have intermittent capital campaigns that you can hear more about today. That was one of the surprises. We had to come up with a whole new budget, a whole new page, another dozen rows. The monthly printouts that we get are 4 different printouts, maybe 12 pages, maybe 500, 600 rows, columns. They all have to add up, right to left, up to down. And it's very exciting work. Yes. Well, that's last year. So last year we finished with a little bit extra. We were able to refill some of our reserves. Now we're in the middle of this year. We're halfway through this year. We're a little bit behind in our pledges. That is, the people have pledged money, and that's not unusual, but we haven't received the money that's pledged for this calendar year. We're expecting it all to come in just fine, and we'll be able to meet budget. The budget's the critical thing. Everything is looked at according to an expected expense. And if there's any variance, that's one of the things we focus on for each one of those hundreds of lines. Are we on budget? And in fact, the budget process is probably the most critical thing the Finance Committee does, and it starts. So starting next month, we'll begin having meetings to set a budget for the next fiscal year, which starts in July 1. And it's very confusing, I know, from the point of view of the parishioner. You've just had an October giving campaign to raise money for the next fiscal year. And we base our budget totally on how much money you've committed. So if you give us more money than we got last year, we can expand some of the things we did. St. Francis would be very happy with our personnel costs. We're in the basement of the galaxy of Oregon, let alone the United States. We'd like to expand what we do in personnel, and we're hampered so far. And that's our biggest cost. If you look at it from the point of view of how much money you get in pledges alone, compared to how much money you need for personnel, it's 80% there. It's, as I say, very, very awkward. Well, so we're bridging 3 years. We're just finishing the last year. The audit came in last week. That was one of the reasons there was a long meeting. That will be presented next week to the vestry. We're in the middle of this year. I'm always anxious about money coming in for this year. And we're getting ready to start budgeting for next year, all based on the annual giving campaign. Okay, that's a lot of words without a microphone.
Can I give it back to you now? It's working now. Our power transformer blew back there, so it is completely rewired and working.
I don't know why, but I rewatched Forrest Gump recently, and there's that scene where he's talking in front of the people at Washington. Yeah. Anyway, the microphone goes out, and that's probably all for the best. All right, we're back. So I'm happy to take any questions. I do want to tell you before that, though, that Paul and I are leading a seminar on finance for the commissions and new vestry members, and really anyone else who'd like to come. It's 2 weeks from today, 2 o'clock? 11:30. I'll be there too. Okay. All right. Are there questions about what's been published and what you see on the screen? Yes, please. It's I think it's the 9th, Sunday, February the 9th at 11:30, Morrison Room. Perfect. What's the over under? Yeah. Yeah. Yes, please.
The assessment that we have in this diocese is one of the highest in the Oregon or in the country. How does it compare to other EPAs in the area?
We're a very rich congregation, and we always have been for the state, and the diocese really has relied upon that richness to be spread a bit, and it's an honor, and it's totally related to the monies that we use. It's a fraction. It's a calculation that's published. It's used throughout the United States and accepted. All congregations use the same calculation. Our number happens to be higher, but it's calculated and calculated. Paul goes at it from as many angles as he can. He's trying to get that number down, and it's been a point of contention between the parish and the diocese for 100 years. But that's the way it is. It's an honor. They should somehow rename all tax forms to somehow donation opportunity. I don't know. Yes, please.
So I'm struck on the high chart about expenses, the difference between uncommon woe and holy compassion compared to deep beauty and intellectual curiosity. Is that because there are staff people that are included in those?
Yeah, the numbers are a little squirrely, and it does have to do with how the administration decided to portion personnel costs around, but it also has to do with the actual cost of programs. Some of the programs, for example, if they have a reserve fund or their budget may be much bigger, but the way the numbers are calculated, if you bring $100,000 in over here, you reduce this number by $100,000, and it's, again, I'd have to sit down with some papers that I have here. It would take a while. Excuse me. Yes.
2 questions. We really appreciate the report. I think we're sure if you could, in addition to the mission related expenses, just also publish a plastic budget, how much to personnel, how much to utilities, how much to insurance, how much to security, that's helpful. And also, it seems to me, this is my second question, in prior annual meetings or prior budget meetings, like in the spring for the whole parish, there's been a like, wow, we're way behind. If you haven't pledged, please pledge. And if you have pledged, could you look at what you pledged and up it by 2 or 3%? So I'm just curious, is this the moment where that's actually what you really want to say to us?
Well, the senior warden is going to address all of that as he goes through it. But but believe me, the cost of property insurance exceeds the amount of money we make off the parking lot, and on and on and on and on and on. And we can give you that detail. It used to be a detail. There used to be 8 or 9 pages of abbreviated numbers, but still lots of numbers. And yes, please.
Having that again. And also, looking at those breakdowns, some of their outreach, there's a lot of volunteers. Ending with uncommon warmth, which I suppose can be better. Has anyone looked at calculating out the number of volunteer hours and what the value of that would be? Interesting to know how many hours of volunteer work, how much savings, free work.
It's invaluable. Whatever the number is, it's invaluable. And there used to be numbers like that. Most not-for-profits have that kind of accountancy in order to put that in their little spiel and whatnot. But it's an infinite resource here that has no value, no way to value that truly. And no, there is no calculation. I just would think from Cheryl Cathy and Stephen Isaacson, their hours alone are invaluable. Yes. Lee.
Is the diocesan program assessment geared to just pledge income or do contributions to specific programs from donors outside the cathedral, for example? I'm thinking of the Friends of Music.
It's more,
That income also go to the diocese.
it's more related to expenditure than it is to money coming in. So if you give me in $4 million to endow my personnel costs, we don't pay the DPA on that. We pay on the personnel costs that we put out on an annual basis. Other questions? It's a program assessment. The diocese assesses they call it a program or not a program, but that's what it's always been called. And it's an equation. I'm sure that we could bring you the equation and put you to sleep as we grind through it. But a lot of it has to do with how you specifically value certain expenses. We do the best we can to keep it as low as possible. Hopefully the bishop doesn't have too many spies here today.
But the money goes to the child.
Oh, yeah, no, it's none of it's wasted. It's all very well spent. Am I done? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bill. May I get a motion to accept the financial report from the congregation as presented by our treasurer? Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Now, I'm going to invite our capital campaign co-chairs, Matt Thompson and Lee Wilson, to update us on the capital campaign.
We'll share the mic. Good afternoon, everyone. Arnold, can we go to the next slide?
Yeah.
So this is a quick update for those of you who are aware of the capital campaign and a small introduction for those of you who are not. Our Open Doors, Open Hearts campaign, which has two goals. We have some serious repairs that are needed to this building. This building, you might want to think of it as three separate buildings. So we have some major renovations and repairs that need to be done. And that is the main goal of our campaign. We can go to the next slide, please. This is how we're framing it. It's to help us with our sacred spaces, especially with Kempton. We spend an enormous amount of time together here in this particular building, and it needs some help. We go to the next slide. And then, as Bill said, and Lee's going to talk about numbers in just a moment, one of the stretch goals is once we take care of what we need around the physical part of what we're doing here, we would like to aspire to continue and hopefully create some endowments, do some things to help relieve the stress of the annual campaign to help us sustain what we're doing here even longer.
So he got the fun part, I get the boring part. This started quite some time ago. Before any of you ever heard about a capital campaign, we probably spent well over a year initiating it, looking at feasibility and who we are and what we do. Our goal came from our advisors. They looked at our population and the community and the church and what we do. And they said, we think you have a reasonable goal of $4 million to be pledged over 5 years. We don't want to set a goal so high that we fail. We don't want to set a goal so low that there's money out there to be given for more projects that need to be done. Matt and I believe we can raise more than $4 million. We wanted to up it, but everybody said, no, be patient, don't be greedy. So our goal at this time is $4 million to cover the projects we have listed, and Chris may talk about those. Next slide. We started well before October on this, as I said, in 2023. We hired an agency. Nathan and Vestry approved that we hired them. We had some seed money. So they walked us through a more efficient plan, how to accomplish this. We didn't want to hire someone in-house like we did 10 years ago, just because it seemed more efficient to go to a company that was already doing this, and they had done well over 1,000 capital campaigns for church. Remember, Matt just said, but again, a capital campaign is to fund those large capital buildings projects that we cannot fund through our annual budget. They're the things that wear out over 10 years. And so every 10 years, most churches, most large parishes have a capital campaign. Ours was 10 to 12 years ago. And I do want to put this plug in. 10 years ago or 12 years ago, I was co-chair of that one. And our dean left at the middle of the capital campaign. I wouldn't hire me again for this job. Fear not, we raised more than we asked last time, and I believe we can do that again. We hired CCS. They worked with us through August of this year. They developed our print materials, our behaviors of how we ask people and talk to people, and our goals and strategies, as well as helped identify projects that we needed. Buildings and Grounds helped us, and we had a small committee that started then in about February of last year, reaching out to people on a one-to-one basis. And these are people who had pledged 10 years ago, who knew us, who knew the parish, or were intimately involved in some way in our parish and spiritual life here. Many of you have not been contacted yet. Behold, it's coming. We now, as of, you'll see on the far right, we have raised commitments of $3,753,036. But that's not all. And again, when we're talking about projects, all of you have heard about the disaster of the roof. The roof is now funded. But we have a lot of other things to do, and some of you have heard about them. At the end of the meeting, I'll put out some brochures if you haven't, some folders. If you haven't been given one personally before, they'll be on the back table, and feel free to take one, and it explains what we're doing. The next phase, we're putting us on pause for a minute to get through annual giving campaign and Christmas. And so our next kickoff will be in March. Everybody, most people will be getting a letter saying, this is where we are, this is our theory, this is what we're doing, and this is our hopefulness. You will start to see some renovations and things happen this spring. We will have celebrations. That's my job. And I put together a team and we have a party. We hope that we have to realize that not all the money comes in at once. We've asked that people pay upfront a small portion so we can begin to contract for these jobs that need to be done. But you can pay over 5 years, and that's what the majority of us do. That gives us a little more ability to perhaps look into the future and see what we might be able to up our pledge for this campaign a little bit. And you'll hear more about the projects. Feel free to reach out to Matt or me anytime to ask us how we're doing, how you can help, plan a party, write thank you notes, do all that thing. So I think that's good.
Yeah, we'll just go to the last slide. I do want to stress this is a 5-year campaign. And I hope that everyone gets involved at some point during those 5 years. I absolutely believe that we can exceed the $4 million goal. And the more we exceed that goal, the more we are going to make this a very permanent place for what we do for a very long time. So I'm excited. I can't wait to turn this over to Chris Maloney so that you can hear about this roof. I've been up there. It's a disaster. So take it away, Chris, and thank you all so very much.
Okay. I'm not gonna hold this. Hi, everyone. Good morning, and thanks for being here. I'm gonna give a presentation about what we do with Buildings and Grounds and some of the normal projects that we do, and then I'll step in a little bit later into the roof. Yes. So caring for this building takes a lot of work. And I think of it as a lot of handwork. And so, well, let me back up. I thought about what I wanted to say today, and I got stuck on what my theme might be. So I call it my island home. So that's where I'm thinking about what we do here, and what I'm a part of is not just a roof and the walls, but it's really each of us, staff, congregation, clergy, that make the walls and the roof. I don't know, we work with it, it works with us. Kind of weird, I guess, but anyway, so this past year, I really want to be transparent about some stuff that went on in the neighborhood and what we did with the Buildings and Grounds Committee and with our Sexton staff and Jim and Elise. The past year was fully occupied with maintenance and repairs to HVAC, that's heating, venting, air conditioning, and we know that air conditioning is small. We worked on a lot of plumbing, electrical, painting, and technical concerns. A few minor projects were completed. We got the ADA parking spots restriped, new signs. It's an important thing. We got new security lighting outside the South Kempton door here in the parking lot. That's it's a security issue, and that's been a small thing that was really successful. We resealed the Kempton Hall floor, and we also worked with the Arts Commission, and so we have new arts lighting that really, it's fantastic. We had a lot of hard work put in to get the right kind of lighting. So we have that done. This past summer presented a lot of challenges. The citywide fentanyl crisis literally landed on our doorstep and presented us with a heavy lift to keep the campus clean and safe. It affected guests, our staff, our neighbors, each of us. Increased security was a necessity, and that was coupled with increasing our Sexton staff just to clean up garbage every day. Cooperation and communication with our neighbors was not always pleasant. They blamed us for a lot of problems in the neighborhood. And that's the part that was the heavy lift, was how hard this was. It's a citywide concern that like I said, it landed on our doorstep, and the toll it took really on staff. It was really hard. And I was only here part-time. And what happened this summer was, again, so much garbage and so much stuff and so much hard work. And our staff worked really hard to keep it clean and keep it safe. And
Chris,
yeah,
did a great job.
they did a great job. So at first, yeah. Yeah. Thanks. The increase in security, we increased security in September and October, and that was expensive and highly effective. We also had increases in utility rates, and I just want to commend Jim on working hard at making changes. Even though that the utility rates went up, our bills remained steady. Yeah, I hate talking in a microphone, and I love you guys. No. I'm just so impressed with how hard the staff work. That's really, it's really big. In the coming year, we've already contracted. So in the coming year, we're going to be replacing all the low voltage lighting on the front steps and the ADA ramp up front. We're working with a contractor to replace and repair the sidewalk on 19th Avenue out front. It's a major tripping hazard, as you probably know. We're going to put cut-throughs from the parking lot to the sidewalk. So there's most of you are probably aware you got to step up over some plantings and go on some pavers. So we're going to have 4 cut-throughs that make it a smooth transition from the parking lot to the sidewalk. Let's see. Oh, we are working on some security fencing out on Trinity Place. So the rear sacristy door where that ramp is, there's typically been two parking spots. They'll still be there, but we're putting in more security fencing because that's a lot of the area where there was the fentanyl, drug use, unsavory activity kind of thing. Sorry. The campaign, the Kempton roof. Thank you all for, thank you. There we go. That's a highly, I did a drawing. I'm just going to take a little, so anyway, the Kempton roof, was scheduled. I signed a contract last November and I got to hand over a check for $260,000 to the roofer. And, that was kind of fun. He walked away with a big smile. It is the same roofer that we used for the sanctuary, and they're highly qualified, do a great job, and really great to work with. So the roof was slated, that's my pun, the roof was slated to begin May 1st. But he wants to move it up, and we've agreed, working with Shanna and Elise about the entire schedule of the campus. They're going to start March 15th. So it's a big, it's a big deal. It's a big impact. Right, exactly. Beware the Ides of March. So the drawing I have, that's an aerial view of Kempton. So you can see the yellow area is the flat roof, and then where I've marked slate. Towards the top, it says composite. That's the back above the Morrison room. That'll be the composite type roofing material. It's less expensive. It matches what we have already. The other little flat section up on the top is above Shannon's office. So those are the areas of work. What I have written or drawn with the red slanted is there's going to be scaffolding through the courtyard on the outside of the building here along 19th and all along the south wall, all the way to the kitchen, scaffolding and security fencing. And the big part that I hated to tell Shanna was they're also taking some parking spots for dumpsters and trucks and things like that. But the part that affects the campus is that when they have the scaffolding up, that this door and the Glisten Suite door will not be available to use during daylight, 9 to 5. It's a safety issue. It's going to affect the way we use this room, but it's going to affect pantry as well. And working with Shanna and Elise and outreach leadership, we're going to relocate pantry. So I want to be super clear that with the re-roof, this hall will remain open, but we won't be using these doors. Pantry will remain open, but will not be through this location. Yeah, so that's what I have for, well, I wanted to know if there's any questions about the roof. Yes. It's about 4 months. So the question was how long? We scheduled 4 months with the roofer. He is starting in March, so there's some weather stuff. Could take a little longer, but 4 months is the number. And yes.
Safety on campus, and I'm wondering, I understand the extra security and many things that administration and staff have done. I'm wondering if there's any way to quantify how much better it is, or at least a description. It's hard to tell. If you're someone who's just coming here once every couple of weeks for church, it's difficult to tell how much better it is and whether you can sustain that. Or is that in great support?
It's who better.
No, so the question, I'm going to paraphrase, and I hope I'm getting it right, which is based on security, not the roof, but based on security improvements and expenses and what have we done and what will we do, right? How do we note how effective it is? Is that about right? Yeah. So there's nothing that we've done like a report. So I don't have figures, anything like that. What I can tell you is I check in with Elise and I check in with Jim and I check in with Paul because they're the ones that I speak to mostly in terms of staff. They're here every day. And their reports, and I speak to them probably 2 or 3 times a week. So I think that's a fair amount. And they, especially Elise, because that's her purview is hiring security. So what I hear is that it's dramatically better. We did have, like I said, in September, we hired a lot more security and we eased it off in December. And it's hard to tell because of weather, but it has been quieter. The other thing is, and Greg's been a part of this too, some communication with our neighbors. And this summer was relentless with their, it was real, their complaints were real, but their complaints were relentless. And it's really died down. So that's what I have to go on is expense and communication. And I don't know if that's the best I got for the answer. Kelly.
I just have a question on the roof. Do we have to do some tear down of that's there? And because I remember when I rewrote the Victorian 50 years ago or whatever, the most of the expense was on the tear down and getting rid of it before we could put the roof on.
Okay, so how extensive is the repair?
Yeah.
Oh, love the details. No. Like it's like Bill, I can bore you. Not you're boring. Sorry. That's wrong. So it is a complete tear off, and it's a 1938 wing. And so it's long past due. And so what we have is a complete tear off down to the framing. There's skip sheathing. We'll get plywood. We're going to get more insulation and then more plywood before we do the flat section. And that's not going to be a torch down. That's no longer like a legal way to put a roof on. The flat section will be a membrane. The slate is going to be a triple layer slate. It's coming from Spain. It's shipped on December 18th. It should be in Seattle in about 2 weeks, but it's exactly the same as what is on the sanctuary. So all the slope or the pitch will be slate, but the only area that's going to be composite will be back above near where the elevator is, where it's not visible from the street. There's some historical, I don't know the right term, but we're in a historical neighborhood. We're not a historical building, but we still have rules to follow, kind of thing. So yeah, dumpsters, dump trucks, forklifts, tear off. Any other? Yeah. Oh, sorry, Jan.
Building in a national historic district, if I understand. Because we're in the outfit historic district or privacy building.
Okay.
Part is going back to the overall thing with neighbors. Do we have anyone from staff, the vestry, membership who is a dedicated like liaison with the neighborhood association?
That's you.
Yeah, sure.
Direct all your attention to Greg. Are you still the recipient? Are you still recipient of email? No, never mind. Okay. Greg is our liaison to the neighborhood. Okay. All right. I'm going to keep going. So thank you all. Oh, wait, sorry, Elliot.
But something beyond that is this neighborhood situation. This is our goal. And I think all of us here that are listening to this should recognize that we have a responsibility. Maybe it's not, I think it's a responsibility to talk to neighbors. Neighbors are still very upset. They know a number of them in this area living around here that have very little opportunity. And a lot of it's based on misinformation. And we, in this church, don't need to be critical, but we need to talk with them and tell them the problem, because I don't know if they can change their mind, but I think it softens some of what goes on. And it's bad. And that is, I think, where we can make we sitting here to make a difference. And help you.
Well, helping me is helping each of us, but thanks. You know, what you just said, I mean, is something I personally believe in, which is the more we communicate, the better we know, and that it just reduces anxiety, right? If we just hear a little bit about what's going on. But in terms of my experience, and I'm not going to get into the weeds on it, but you know, my experience this summer with what I heard from the neighbors and what I experienced and what I understand with meeting with law enforcement and business owners. I'm just going to say, I think there was a lot of targeting of Trinity that was some misplaced. I'm trying to find the right words. But we do have communications, we have meetings, we have conversations amongst each other, and we do talk with neighbors. And I know some of them personally as well. One being a college roommate who has called me every week, pissed off, you know. But it is the misinformation that needs to be addressed. So, okay. I'm going to keep moving on. This section, our sextons do many things to make and keep this house clean, safe, and beautiful. And to make it function, they set up the tables and that our guests eat at each Wednesday lunch. They take them down after every Wednesday dinner. They set up and will take down the chairs that you are currently sitting on. Our services are live streamed due to their skill with their own mysterious electronic equipment at the rear of the nave. They help our clergy and visiting clergy with headsets so we can all enjoy a very nice long sermon with clarity. It wasn't that long. All right. I timed it. No. They empty the garbage cans in the kitchen, the welcome center, the classrooms, offices, meeting rooms, and areas that none of us have ever been in. They refill the hand sanitizer we use on Sunday after exchanging the peace. They help the Flower Guild make our altar beautiful. Light bulbs are replaced. They fix things. They fix a lot of things. They clean the grounds, picking up litter every morning before any of us arrive. Elise and Jim organize and oversee staffing, projects, deal with nightmares and some pretty weird stuff, often without much notice. And we have weddings, funerals, burials, forums, music events, dinners, and more. And it is a long list. So please join me in recognizing. No. Right. I'm going to keep talking. Thanking each of our sextons. Rick Davis, Stephen Lanier, Amanda Daly, Christian Clayton, John Baus, James Bueller, Andrew Horman, Robin Rosas, Alex Hebert, Rick Evans, Jim Hebert, and Elisa Sandusky. Thank you, guys. So, all right. And last, I hope to send out an email maybe in March with more of a written update about the roof and the capital campaign and that kind of thing. That's all right. It's all right. So I am going to send out an email, I think later, like a junior warden report, and I hope to include what I'm calling many hands make light work. So I'm going to ask for volunteers to help. Like last year, I asked for a pew crew, and I did not follow through that very well. But I'd love to have a crew of 12 or more of you help clean, pick up litter, whatever. One Saturday every couple of months. Let's get together and have coffee and do something that takes the load off the sextons and helps us with our grounds. And the last thing is just something my dad used to say. He never said goodbye. He just said, keep the faith.
Thank you very much, Chris. Excellent report. So I gotta get my papers just a second. Now we go on to the senior warden's report, where I'm going to spend most of my time talking about the clergy transition and a few other items as well. And as we prepared this meeting, we try to anticipate all the questions and things you might be curious about. So I'm going to proceed to my report, then we'll move on to the agenda. And before we dismiss, I'll take an opportunity to hear things from the floor. But I'm sensitive to you all sitting for a very long time, and you might be nutrition deprived. So this will be a pastoral intent of mine. So I'm going to address those concerns that you've made known to me about the transition and tell you what I can about the transition process. In my first transition update, I used the metaphor of building a bridge while we cross it. I referred specifically to the Astoria-Megler Bridge, which spans from the state of Oregon to Washington state. And that is also an apt bridge metaphor. We are nowhere near completing the journey from one state to another state. Matter of fact, it's really just begun. We're about 1 month into a process that'll take at least 18, if not 24 months to complete. During these first 4 weeks, questions have been asked that can't yet be answered. The truth is, we do not yet know everything we want to know. More will come to us in time, and that is the nature of our discernment process. Discernment is sensing the work of God in our presence. The Holy Spirit is at work among us, and we need time and communication and intention to discern her. This is how we will find out what God calls us to be and how God calls us to be. So what an extraordinary opportunity we have to use our anxiety, our disorientation, and our enthusiasm as a means to explore our sacred purpose. We will all benefit in this work from the wisdom and compassion of our transition consultant, the Reverend Linda Potter. Linda, if you're still here, please come up and introduce yourself.
Okay, y'all. We're ready. You're ready. I'm ready. And I am so excited to be a part of this journey with you. Now, I'm not really a builder, but I'm pretty good with a hammer. So you can take that wherever you want it to go. Thank you for letting me be part of your journey. You are part of my heart. You're part of my heart. It never occurred to me when Nathan called me to come and serve as the interim after Julia left, how easily you made it into the crevices of my heart. So thank you for letting me come. I know Greg thinks I'm sometimes kind of a pain in the and that's true. So I'm delighted. I'm delighted. Aren't you delighted? All right. I'm from Oklahoma. God is at work here, y'all. Did you hear me? God is at work here. There you go. And guess what? We get to do this together. We get to do this together. We get to listen to the Spirit as she whispers in our ears and in our hearts. And I know you told me I couldn't talk very long, but I'm getting done. And I believe in that. I believe in you. I believe that God is already at work. I don't know how. I believe that you and I are going to see something miraculous continue to happen in this place. You're going to get a chance to know me a little bit more. Some of you I know well. Too bad for you. Some of you, I'm going to have the delight of getting to meet. So if you have questions, please, if I don't have an answer, I'll let you know. But if I do, I'd love to share in the journey with you. Thank you for letting me have these moments.
Actually, I love working with Linda Potter. But she does know how to speak truth to power. So that's a good thing for us. So I've noticed that concerns about our Bishop Akiyama's role in the transition seems to be a consistent thread through what you've made known to me. So I want to address those as directly as I can at this point. Nathan chose to leave. I've heard suspicion that our bishop dismissed Nathan, which is simply not true. Nathan made the decision to resign on his own for the reasons he stated. I find it consoling to appreciate we had Nathan for 15 years, more than either of his predecessors, Bill Lupfer or Bud Thurston. And I wonder if we find Nathan's stated reasons for resigning hard to accept because he was so beautifully gifted and so beloved, and he left without a concrete plan or landing place. If that perplexes you, I invite you to consider Nathan as a very human being. As a 42-year-old man who found at the midpoint of his life, he needed time to reflect, re-energize, and recommit. Now, there was a variance inherent in Nathan's values and our bishop's role. The canon, which is like a rule or law of the Episcopal Church, the canon which limits communion to only baptized Christians, was personally and spiritually conflicting for Nathan. And bishops vowed to enforce the canons. So there was indeed an incompatibility between Nathan's personal integrity and our bishop's duty. Nathan believed he had a workable compromise with Bishop Akiyama on this issue. What is also true, though, is that Nathan told me he found that his objection to a fundamental rule of our church diminished his capacity to energetically represent and lead, so that might have contributed to his decision, but not a personal dispute with the bishop. His issue is with the institutional church. Second, Bishop Akiyama is postponing hiring an interim dean out of her pastoral care for us, not as some kind of corrective measure. Bishops have the authority to accept or reject priests in the diocese they lead. Bishop Akiyama is sincerely concerned that we need more time to grieve Nathan's departure. She also believes we will benefit from a period of guided reflection on what leadership qualities will suit us best in the interim and beyond. She assures us that our transition consultant, Linda Potter, is uniquely qualified for this role. We will revisit our role as a parish and a cathedral. That conversation has been going on here for over 30 years. But Bishop Akiyama is not calling for a change in our status as a cathedral. She wants to provide us with some information about the role of the cathedral in the Episcopal Church, and she wants to remain in dialogue with us. And in fact, Bishop Akiyama will be at our chapter meeting next Tuesday, where she will affirm what I've said and offer her perspective on the road ahead. So the transition process. We are in a dynamic, evolving process that will surely require us to adapt to changing circumstances we can't yet anticipate. I'm clear about only what will happen in the next 2 weeks. The February 7th and 8th vestry retreat will focus on transition planning, so expect another update next month. Beyond that, this is how I believe we will proceed at this time. Linda will help us engage in a period of self-study where we will determine what threads from our past we will weave into the fabric of our future. We'll assess our present situation, and we'll envision our future, including our way of being both a parish and a cathedral. We will hire an interim dean. We will complete a parish profile which is the document that makes the case for why the best priests in the country should apply for our job opening. And then we'll form a search committee, and the process will get underway. We need your help. How you can help is stay engaged, keep doing Trinity things. Communicate. I invite you to share input into the vestry retreat planning, the vestry retreat discussion of the transition process. You can email vestry at vestry@trinity-episcopal.org and stay in touch with me, stay in touch with your vestry members. We're here to listen to you and we need your advice. And then participate in the transition process as it unfolds. And of course, seek God's presence in our work together. We stand on both sides of a threshold. We have one foot rooted in something that's not yet over, whereas the other foot is planted in a thing not yet defined. This quote seems an apt assessment of our current situation. Please indulge me in a brief group exercise to demonstrate how we will cross the threshold together. Those who are here in the early 90s when Father Wagner left and Bud Thurston arrived, please stand if you are able and remain standing for just a moment. Thank you. Now, join them if you were here when Bud Thurston left and Bill Lupfer arrived. And remain standing, please. Thank you. And then those who are here when Bill left and Nathan LaRue became our dean, please stand. Look around. You are our knowledge bearers. You are our wisdom holders. We will depend on you to be our foundation and guides throughout this journey. Thank you. Please be seated. Now, those of you who have only known Nathan as their dean, please stand if you are able. Look at that, right? You are our fresh eyes, our innovators, the voices we must hear to understand new possibilities. Thank you. Please be seated. So that concludes my remarks on the transition process. I've got a couple other pieces of business and then we'll move on. At least one of you is interested in the annual giving campaign update. So let me say, you are clearly a very generous and dedicated congregation. I know we've asked a lot from you these past several years, and you've responded beautifully. This year, so far, 594 households have pledged about $1.4 million to fund next year's operating budget. Thank you. And while that generosity is much appreciated, we are still $300,000 short of the $1.7 million total we need to operate as we hope to next year. So here comes the line you were waiting for. If you have not pledged, we need you now more than ever. And if you have pledged and you do have capacity to do more, please consider increasing your financial support so we can remain vital at this crucial time. There are pledge cards on the table in the back. You can talk to Shannon Tilton, our membership manager, if you know who she is, or you can pledge through our website. Now, I have a couple people to thank, and then we'll move on to Shannon's portion of the agenda. Our outgoing vestry members deserve your gratitude. Faith Kuramang could not be here today for a very good reason. Faith is in Alaska to celebrate the 50th anniversary of her uncle's ordination as a priest in the Catholic Church. And I believe Faith is watching online. Thanks, Faith. Yeah, applause. Yeah. Faith even served an extra year to fill in the vacancy with the passing of Barbara Lamandry. She was our truth speaker, and she was our moral compass. Jeff Cresswell. Please join me up here, Jeff. Jeff is a deeply spiritual and compassionate servant leader. He was the soul of the vestry. And Jeff, to commemorate your service, I'm going to give you a platter created by Trinity parishioner and master potter, Chris Baskin. Let's thank Chris.
Thank you.
It is our practice to recognize a parishioner who exemplifies Trinity at our best. We call it the Spirit Award, which is a certificate featuring the beautiful calligraphy of parishioner Inga Dubé. This year's Spirit Award goes to a faithful, dedicated, delightful volunteer whose service to many areas of Trinity's music and outreach programs has touched thousands of lives. His servant leadership is an example to which our entire congregation can aspire. Please come forward to accept the 2025 Spirit Award, Ward Nelson. In conclusion, I invite our candidate vicar, Shannon McCauley, to come forward to talk about staffing. And as she does so, let's recognize and acknowledge that Nathan's resignation has thrust Shanna into a position where she is in charge of our operations and our staff and is our only paid priest. Please join me to show our appreciation for her leadership.
Hello. You may not know this, but we are in a moment of staff transition. I cannot tell you how grateful I am to work with this amazing team of folks. They're coming. You all know them. So here we go. This is our staff. It's a huge staff. It's a wonderful staff. Vijay Sathiraj and I are your two priests. You may not know this, but Vijay has been a volunteer here for his entire time. And as he rounds the corner on his first year of priesthood, we are going to bring him on staff as our priest associate. These women are likely familiar faces to you. We may be the only cathedral with all women in senior leadership. These women have quietly absorbed a lot of new work in this transition, helping to keep this cathedral running seamlessly. But sometimes when we know people personally, it's easy to miss how distinguished they are outside of our circle. Each of these women are powerhouses in their own fields. Sharissa Simmons is a well-respected Godly Play trainer. Godly Play is widely acclaimed. It's a widely acclaimed Montessori-based Christian education program, and she is one of the stars in that field. She regularly consults with many local parishes of many denominations. She is an active member of Forma, the National Network for Christian Formation, and she collaborates with formation workers from large parishes across the country. She's a big deal, friends. In addition to the extraordinary work that Katie does here, Canon Dr. Katie Webb serves on the board of directors for the Royal School of Church Music in America. She will conduct an Episcopal Treble Choir Festival in Cleveland in February and an RSCM, an American Choral Residency in Indiana this summer. She has performed organ recitals in 4 states. Canon Katie is an active composer with 4 of her pieces published in the last year. One was performed by over 300 musicians this Christmas. She is, honest to God, one of the hardest working people I know. Canon Liz published 3 poems in the Christian Century magazine over the last year. She will appear on a panel about, ready for this, risking irreverence in poetry at the Windover Writers Festival in February. One of her poems was selected for the 2024 Vita Poetica Poetry Prize, and will be published in their first print edition. As we have redistributed the work of 5 people into 4, we realized that Canon Sharissa and Canon Liz's titles didn't accurately reflect their work and made for some confusion. For clarity and accuracy, Canon Sharissa will now be the Canon for Intergenerational Ministry, and Canon Liz will be the Canon for Spirituality Education. We decided that Canon Katie would just stay the Canon for Cathedral Music because it didn't feel dignified to add words like amazing or superstar. But you all will know that we mean them. These women bring Trinity's excellence out into the world, even as they share it in this community every week. Trinity's outreach program is the biggest that I have seen at any church led only by volunteers. Cheryl, Kathy, and Steve Isaacson do the work of staff, leading a program that feeds, cares for, teaches, and does the action of Christianity. Through their organization and encouragement, Trinity is able to do so much more than we might be able to do without them. And Jerry Petty is here nearly every day preparing the Wednesday meal, organizing volunteers, and always with gentleness and good humor. This is your music team. Canon Katie, Christine Johnson, who does music administration and this year worked on the annual giving campaign, Sienna Stribling, our organ scholar, and Maya and Daniel, who lead the St. Cecilia Choir and Low Voice Choir. Next. These are the folks who support intellectual curiosity, Canon Sharissa, Canon Liz, and our missioner for youth and liturgical coordinator, Jill Sajek. Jill works with middle and high schoolers, organizes guilds, trains acolytes, and makes all of the leaflets, and there are a lot of them. Shannon Tilton manages everything. I used to say that I was the canon of everything else, and Shannon is truly the administrator of everything else. Funerals, pastoral care organization, baptismal certificates, volunteer management, parking stickers. You all know her, and if you don't, you should. Arwen Myers put together this lovely PowerPoint and is managing it for us. She handles the communication of Trinity, not simply sending it out, but she also thinks about the big picture on how to share the good work that we do. Arwen understands the algorithms and knows how to maximize our impact on various platforms. And if all of that sounds like insider speak, it totally is. She really understands the importance of the way that we communicate and is so much more than the person who sends you the emails, which she absolutely is. Paul Fligger manages our $2.65 million budget. He forecasts next year's expenses so that we can know how much we need to raise, and he helps people to understand the budget that we have. He and Christian make sure that people get paid and that our accounting needs are met and that our auditors like us. They do big work. Jeremiah Davis also does big work in this place. He manages our facility calendar. Last year, we had 4,855 events on our calendar. That is every meeting, practice, concert, building rental. If you needed a room, you talked to Jeremiah and he put you somewhere. And of those, 479 were advertised events like concerts and lectures and classes. Chris told you all about Jim and Elise and the Sextons, but they truly are the ones who keep this place going. They manage a team of folks who keep this place clean and safe. They set up and they open and lock up. They are extraordinary at what they do. They are Trinity's front foot. They make our campus safe and attractive. And in the last year, their work has been very challenging. Amanda and Christian and Jim do the hard work of making sure that you can hear us and we can hear you, and that all of this is seen online. You may not have seen them a whole lot, but they are here and very important, as we learned this morning. And here's the rest of the Sexton team. There are some new folks on this list, so I hope that you will see their faces and say hello to them. It's a really, really good team right now. So here it is, the whole group. This group of professionals work like no team I have ever been a part of. They make me want to do what I do better. Please pray for us as we navigate the transition to new leadership. In a time of transition, it's easy to look at costs and try to trim. We should always be responsible for the treasures we have. And my team is amazing at what they do. Let us be bold and generous as we dream the new chapter into being. I did want to add just one more thing, which is encouragement that though we don't have a named interim at this moment, the reason that we are carrying on the way we are is because of the incredible competence of the staff who are here. This is absolutely normal, friends. For us to have to wait a few Sundays to get an interim, totally normal. This is how every church has to do it. This is how my tiny little church in Silverton did it after I left there. And we're all going to be okay.
Yeah.
You've been sitting a very long time. And I want to fulfill my promise to open the floor for questions or comments if you feel like the entire assembly needs to hear them. You also, no, but you also have the option of talking with us later, talking with us at any time. So, and again, if you're in the back, raise your hand real big because I go blind. Susan.
We know what y'all are doing. Is there a communication?
Right, right. So it's a very fluid process. 4 weeks in, I know more than I did 4 weeks ago. As I forecasted, I expect the next update will come to you in February after the vestry retreat, where we focus on transition planning. Aaron will give me access to email as time and space allows. There's lots of activities and information that needs to be shared, but I would expect updates would be regularly presented through that. And there'll probably be some meetings and conversations where it'll come up again. So that's what I can see for now about how we're going to communicate with you about the transition. Anything else? Yes, Jen.
There's a junior board. Do we have anyone, official representative, to Norfolk Civic Association, the neighborhood association, someone from the cathedral, be liaison, represent us, tell the truth of what's going on, and dispel some of the rumors of the neighborhood?
So-
No, we really should have.
Could you repeat the question?
I'm not quite sure I got all that. Are you talking about, you're saying, how are we connecting with the neighborhood?
Yeah. So when given a chance, because this was really going on, not these rumors you're hearing or whatever.
Right. Well, thank you for that suggestion. I actually do that. There's a neighborhood group sponsored by the city Office for Neighborhood Quality, I think, at PMO, Portland Environmental Neighborhood Security. We meet every 2 weeks. And I'm part of that meeting. What I can observe is that, yes, through the summer and early fall, there was lots of grumbling about Trinity, blame being placed on Trinity because of our feeding program. Now, because of our interventions, that's completely stopped. I mean, I attend those meetings, Trinity never comes up. And so that's another piece of evidence about having somehow managed the reputational issues related to the fentanyl crisis. So that's happening, Chad. Yeah. Is there somebody over here? Well, Linda, do you want to provide us with a benediction? Oh, I'm sorry. One more question. Yes. Barbara. I wish I could have heard that better. You on that?
And thank two outreach volunteers, and one is Mel and one is Jude.
Okay, outreach volunteer. Thank you.
I invite you to stand. I invite you to take a deep breath. Creator God, thank you for being with us this day and always. Thank you for the work and intentions of this meeting. Thank you for this part of your body known as Trinity Episcopal Cathedral. Thank you for people who know this as their spiritual home, a place to question and to learn, to share and to receive. Thank you for the abundant gifts and talents present in this congregation. As they journey in the months ahead, may they always be reminded of your abiding presence. May your Holy Spirit nudge them when they need to move. Whisper words that will invite a slower pace. And giggle to tickle their spirits. We are your people. We are your people, holy and generous God, and we know that you carry us in the palm of your hand and close to your heart. And now, may God's word be in your heart. May God's word be on your lips. May God's word be in your touch. May God's word direct your feet on this day and all your days to come. May God's word be the life that you live. In the name of God, Creator, Redeemer, and Giver of life. Amen.